you based and red-pilled? Well, perhaps the FBI has flagged you as an extremist. If so, looking at new reporting from the Heritage Foundation's Oversight Project, Briahna, this is pretty hysterical. They filed a Freedom of Information Act request with the FBI and got these documents showing that the FBI is listing these terms that have become pretty common internet parlance to refer to various things. I'd say they're like right-wing online terms, but that they're on a list of things associated with violent, racially or ethnically motivated extremism. And there's a lot of talk about incels in here, the involuntary celibate people, and their penchant for violence. It's kind of funny.
They're listed these terms that are a, quote, indication of involuntary celibate violent extremism, which is a designation that I'm just learning exists, or racially and ethically motivated extremism.
Who are not having sex but wish they were having sex.
Yeah, that's what an involuntary celibate is for those of you who don't know. And they have specifically more narrow terms like height cells and bald cells, people who feel like it's their short stature or lack of hair that is causing them to have a lack of success with women. And so the idea is that by tracking these kinds of terms, they can better assess people who present some threat.
Chad is on this list. Looks maxing, which I've never heard before.
Which apparently is just
like working out,
looking better, maximizing your appearance.
Pretty funny.
And so look, I will say this. I do think that there is a broader cultural and social crisis afoot that is driven by economic trends, generational trends, where millennials and Gen Zers are set to do worse than the generations before them. Historical goals, life goals like marriage and children at certain ages, home ownership, professional attainment is just not happening. And as a consequence, people are increasingly isolated. They do live more online, and they have communities in which they support each other, but sometimes which can become toxic, and which attribute the reasons for their lack of traditional success to women being horrible. There's a lot of misogyny. We saw some of this ideology coming out in the Santa Barbara shooter who had that first big manifesto that everyone was pouring over, Elliot Rodgers.
Yes, that was an example of a violent incel. It was very much based in incel ideology.
Right. So it's not
in that one.
It's not that there's no. Yeah, sure. It's one specific case. I'm not sure to the extent to which it's more broadly spread. But I do. I'm not saying. I just want to validate that there is a real phenomenon that these people are reacting to, that they aren't just angry in a vacuum.
Well, sure. But here's the thing. Like a lot of these terms, based and red pill, are terms now that maybe they start as like very fringe online things that are disproportionately likely to be used by, I guess, what the FBI would characterize as extremists. Although, the FBI likes to characterize very broadly extremist groups.
Sure.
Time and time again, we find out that these extremist groups, are not actually planning any violence, or to the extent they're planning violence, it is being coordinated by people being paid by the FBI. Right. It's all kind of nonsense. But these terms, the meaning of words change, the use of words change over time. These are now terms that are actually pretty commonly used in ways that have nothing to do with racially or ethnically motivated violence. In fact, in ways that have nothing to do with race whatsoever.
Yeah.
I think I said the other day that I'd finally red-pilled my dog that he's not getting breakfast before 7 a.m.
Yeah, red-pilled and based were never racial terms. And in fact, the idea of being red-pilled has been very much adopted and embraced by the right, but it is, from the movie, the idea is just that your eyes are open. It basically means woke.
Yeah.
Red pill literally means you got woke. You the truth of the world has been revealed to you, and you see past the superficial veneer of what society wants you to understand. Literally, they're synonyms. So
there's a whole pill dichotomy too now, right? Because if you're you can be, because blue-pilled is to go the other way.
Yeah.
But then I've heard both black-pilled and doom-pilled for people who are just like, everything sucks, I give up.
Yeah.
There's a white pill. I don't actually even know what that means.
Maybe that one is racially motivated.
Honestly, I think that's like a centrist-y one, but I don't have I've looked for I want a list of the pills and what they correspond to, their power-ups or something.
Yeah, I totally take your point that these terms like based are incredibly mainstream. The concept of being in Incel is very mainstream. I'm not saying that aren't probably specific chat groups and things, other terms that can be used in conjunction with these terms that might yield actual results. But if the FBI thinks they're just going to scroll through people using the word incel or based, and that not to be an incredible suck of their time and resources.
And we already know the FBI had constant communications with social media platforms, flagging for them content that they think is not ideal. So, are they acting on their fervent belief that use of based and red-pilled is evidence of racially or ethnically motivated violent extremism?
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
I should say also that
nonsense.
I host a call-in show on the app Call-In, and I did have, after one of the shooting events, I forget which one now, many months ago, I had a show where two separate people called in talking about how when they were in high school, and they were relatively young, so this was just a few years ago for them, they came very close to being active shooters. And one of the guys in particular talked about bullying he received because, in part, he was short and felt like the barriers to him to actually getting a partner, that women could see past all kinds of things, but there was absolutely nothing that he could do about his height. You can't, what do you call it, max height outside of some very expensive and very painful surgeries. And, it was very sympathetic and very hard to listen to. And it made me think after that, how glib we are about the experience of feeling like there's something immutable about yourself that makes you undesirable to partners, and how isolating that experience can be, and what the consequences really are of having a society where people, for various reasons, not just romantically, feel so isolated and have such a narrow idea of what kind of looks make you socially acceptable and a viable romantic partner. So, I think there is a there, and I would like to see more people trying to address these communities in a supportive, productive way, as opposed to just surveilling them. But yeah, these terms aren't going anywhere because this phenomenon isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely not. And it's just the way people use language. It changes over time. This reminds me of the conviction of hate monitoring sites that, like, the OK symbol is a racist symbol, or secret code is how racists are secretly communicating to you, which starts to get very conspiratorial. Like, you're looking through the newspaper pictures for, like, oh, there's an OK sign. Yeah. There's another person on the secret list.
We did this with Pepe the Frog. That was being used by a certain community, but it also had a broader internet reach, and then people were using it in a trolling way, and then it started to mean nothing at all.
Yeah, and then at a certain point, it serves the interests of the actual committed violent racists to pretend that this thing that everybody is saying or everybody is doing is actually one of their symbols, because then it makes their community seem much larger than it actually is, which maybe helps the FBI's social media monitors get a bigger budget or something, or gives them more to do, but not a great use of their time in my book.
For sure.
That's my based and red-pilled take. More Rising right after this.